Maraming salamat, Attorney Joseph Pamitan, for that sharing to us your expertise, your competence in the topic of adjudication. So nakita po naman natin yung distinction talaga ng dalawang dispute resolution, no, yung redress mechanism. Talagang mas formal yung adjudication process. Pagka tinignan ho natin compared to mediation. Kasi doon sa adjudication, talaga mga supporting affidavits, mga evidence. So yun. So as much as possible, as I I would like to re-echo what Attorney Pamitan said, na kung pwede lang po is you exhaust everything na ma-resolve yung complaint through mediation. Kasi sabi naman niya na talagang if you go to the process of adjudication and if a decision will come out, we cannot discount the fact that there will be penalties in case magkaroon ho ng decision and there will be a violation. So with that, thank you, Attorney. Now, we now move on to the question and answer. Meron po kaming unang nakalap dito na mga questions, ano? So I would like to, of course, again, call on our panelists, the presenters, to give us or share to us yung kung how to reply the questions initially. Sige, may I be permitted to show to us the Q&A? So yung una pong tanong po rito, what is the most effective technique in handling consumer complaints of persistent and erring clients? This is came from the private sector. Siguro I would like to address this question to the Chief of Mediation Division, Ms. Wherein.
Jerry, okay, good morning again. So yung question natin dito is what is the most effective technique? So muna sagutin ko, of course, the most effective technique in handling consumer complaints through undergoing the alternative mode of dispute, which is mediation. Yun naman talaga ang nagsuserve as a channel or avenue kung saan yung parties are given the chance to meet, discuss their differences. But may kadugtong to, handling consumer complaints of persistent and erring clients. Ibig sabihin ba nito is yung mga clients na talagang erring clients, say in Tagalog, may medyo may pasaway tayong clients or gustong pinipilit kung ano yung gusto. So, persistent clients, of course, it would depend on the characteristic ng isang mediation officer. Importante kasi na isang mediation officer possess the characteristics such as being calm. Kung kalmado lang siya, sineset aside yung emotion, nagli-listen lang, matutulungan niya yung parties na maintindihan kung ano talaga yung resolution dun sa complaint niya. So, siyempre, flexible. At least, nagli-listen din naman siya sa kabilang side, sa party complained of. And neutral talaga siya. Dapat neutral. And clear magpaliwanag para naiintindihan ng parties. So, yun, very important na ang mediation officer din ay marunong nag-handle ng mga, hindi lang the complaint itself, but the clients. Paano siya mag-adjust in such a way na masiserve yung purpose. Because there are instances na, like what I've discussed kanina, it's already beyond the authority of DTI to act upon yung mga ibang issues. But of course, it's a consumer transaction and hindi natin ma-avoid that there are complainants na akala nila it's within DTI's jurisdiction. So yun, nasa maayos naman na pagpapaliwanag na, okay, tutulungan po namin kayo, we will facilitate para magkausap, and we will help you to refer it to the concerned agency. So yun lang, the manner lang the characteristic of the mediation officer para dito sa maging effective na magkaroon ng resolution yung complaint, especially to those persistent in erring clients.
Thank you, Ms. Werlin, for that answer. Now we go on to the next question. Medyo 12, checking my time, 12:03 na po tayo. So we can extend our program siguro mga 30 minutes po. Okay, we go on to the next question. Can a business counselor assigned at the Negosyo Center handle, receive complaints? Up to what extent should the handling be made? So anyone from the panelists, siguro Attorney Joseph? Attorney Joseph.
Sorry. Can a business counselor assigned at the Negosyo Center handle and receive complaints? Well, for purposes of receive, yes, the Negosyo Centers can receive complaints, but there's a duty upon them to submit yun dun sa appropriate appropriate RO or PO or FTEB for that matter. But normally kasi si DTI, ganyan tayo, we take it, it can be received, but yung extent of handling, I think hindi sila nag-handle ng consumer complaints or anything for that matter. They can receive and forward it to the appropriate DTI offices, but yung handle really, I think they cannot do that. But for purposes lang po nito, I think we just have to, the rules provide that may email address that we just have to follow that particular recommendation, which is to file it directly and not anywhere else. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. So yun po, yung Negosyo Center, hindi sila pwedeng mag-handle po ng complaints. They can just endorse that to the appropriate agency or office. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Attorney. Next question. How do we make sure that the customer does not abuse his rights in the Consumer Act and Philippine Lemon Law? Next, what are DTI's actions in cases to ensure fairness for both the customer and the business establishment? Well, I will address this question to both of you. Ms. Werlin, please. Ikaw muna.
Okay, so first question, how do we make sure that the customer does not abuse his right in the Consumer Act and Philippine Lemon? So, ang DTI kasi we have the guidelines, like itong revised rules of mediation and adjudication. So, ito yung isang way natin how to guide the customers as well as pati din yung mga parties being complained of. Para hindi alam nila na through the guidelines issued by DTI, merong mga limitations na hanggang dun lang yung pwede mong i-claim. Kasi meron lang tayong mga sanctions, kung ano lang pwedeng available remedies to the consumers. Yun, through the guidelines. And number 2 question, what are the DTI's actions in cases like this? So, like what I've said before, ang DTI kasi meron tayong consumer, yung bureau na Jerry, di ba? Kayo yung nagpo-formulate ng guidelines. Of course, ang purpose naman is para to guide and to inform the public kung ano ba yung ini-implement na batas ng DTI for the protection of the consumers. Yun naman lagi ang ating objective for the protection of the consumers and to balance the interest between the consumer and the business establishment. So both of them, para mag-guide both parties. Implementation of the guidelines. Yun ang ginagawa natin. And doon naman, binibigyan natin ng opportunity ang public kasi nakakameron kayo ng public consultation, right? So, properly inform sila kung ano yung mga consumer rights, kung ano yung mga responsibilities nila as a consumer. At ganun din naman sa respondent. Like dito sa Philippine Lemon Law, may sarili din tong guidelines eh. So, the consumer cannot just invoke na nagkaroon ng na merong sira ang sasakyan niya because sira. Of course, he has to apply kung ano yung naka-indicate doon sa guidelines. And through these guidelines, doon mo lang magagamit dito sa, particularly dito sa Philippine Lemon Law. So through the guidelines being implemented by DTI, I believe na ang consumer hindi nila pwedeng ma-abuse ang right nila. Because nandun lahat ang mga limitations and they are properly guided through these guidelines being issued by DTI.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Werlin. Do you have any additional response to this, Attorney?
What I can guarantee yung mga consumers or yung respondents for that matter in all establishments, yung mga adjudication officers natin or hearing officers or consumer arbitration officers, we are really diligent in considering yung mga evidences. So much so na alam natin kung nagte-take advantage lang yung tao or ito nang i-extort lang. So we normally look at the evidence also. So kasi even if a consumer files a case, but yung arguments niya are not valid, the evidences that does not point to a violation, then we will not be hesitant to decide in favor of the establishment. But of course, if the evidences point to a violation, then we will not also be hesitant to impose yung appropriate sanctions on the establishment. But what I can guarantee you is that we always look at the evidence and what does the evidence tell us. So that's our guarantee. No, hindi ibig sabihin na consumer nag-file and automatically wins the case. No, it's not the case. We always always base our decision based on evidence and what the law says, the applicable laws, and what the facts show, what are proven, and what evidences are submitted and part of the records of the case. These things we consider before coming up with decision, and we make sure that our decisions are always fair and based on law and based on evidence. That I can guarantee you.
Okay, thank you, Attorney, for that response. Okay, let's move on to the next question. In terms of jurisdiction, what are the most common complaints that are referred to the DTI, but is legally under the correct jurisdiction of another government agency? Well, I would like to address this to Ms. Werlin, please. Ms. Werlin.
Okay, Jerry, thank you. So, what are the most common complaints that are referred to DTI but not legally under our jurisdiction? So, lalo ngayon hello, Jerry? During this
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Werlin.
state of our health emergencies kung pandemic natin na to, no? Ang pinakamaraming na-receive ng FTEB, ang pinakamaraming most common complaints received by FTEB. And I believe ganun din sa ibang provinces, sa mga and regional offices, overpricing ng mga medical supplies, medical products, and that those issues covered yan ng DOH under the FDA. So nire-refer naman natin yan. One more is yung issues ngayon ng internet connectivity. Ang daming complaints na natin na-receive na poor connection, poor customer service. So we refer it din naman sa concerned agency, which is NTC. Isa pa, marami din is yung complaints involving loans. So, nire-refer din natin yan sa Securities Exchange Commission. Yung non-delivery ng parcels, marami din because alam naman natin ngayon na puro tayo online transaction. Usually, nagkakaroon ng delay in the delivery ng mga products na purchase online. So, kung depende kasi yun sa sa allegation sa complaint, if it's really yung performance ng delivery
Wherein, mukhang nagkaroon ho ng technical problem. Wherein, anyway, siguro nagkaroon lang ho ng technical problem po si Miss Wherein, and I understand medyo she covered naman siguro everything about what are the most common complaints that were referred to the DTI. Tapos yung endorsement niya, so correct.
Jerry? Okay.
Yes, yeah. You can continue,
Yeah, Jerry?
what you have left off.
Okay. Sorry, I had an internet interruption. Okay, yeah. So we referred those naman, those complaints, lalo na yung mga issues din sa mga credit card transactions ngayon. Meron din tayong Bangko Sentral. But most common, pinakamarami overpricing and internet connectivity issues.
Okay. Okay na yan.
Okay.
Okay na?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Werlin. Now we move on to the next question. This is one. Importante ko ito, no? How does the DTI handle online consumer complaints, especially if the proof of purchase cannot be established due to non-issuance of receipt and the online store is not registered? I would like to address this question to Attorney Pamitan. Attorney Pamitan, please.
Sorry. Yung ako kasi consumer, how does DTI handle online consumer complaints especially? Actually, yung consumers under the rules, even if you don't have a receipt, that does not of course prevent you from filing a case, no? In fact, under the Consumer Act, hindi lang yung receipt is a proof of transaction. So anything, there can be other ways of proving. Like say for example, if that particular product is manufactured by only by this particular company, then it could be that product can be attributable to that particular company. So that's so much so that it has defects. Then yung defects can be brought to the attention of that particular company. Dito sa online stores naman, you know, yung question on whether it registered is a bit vague, no? Because what do you mean registered? Walang DTI business name registration, or it does not have a business permit, no? But meron, insofar as DTI is concerned, we have a bit of a challenge insofar as yung mga online stores that like na wala talagang physical address. But that does not mean na yung public does not have a redress or recourse, because si DTI, we are in strong partnership also with PNP Cybercrime and NBI Cybercrime. And normally we refer these complaints to them because si PNP Cybercrime and NBI Cybercrime offices have way to determine yung mga IP address who owns this, and normally we can like previously dun sa mga nag-hoarding or nagpa-profiteering during this pandemic, no, we were able they were able to trace, and we were able to arrest. I mean, like not us, no, but the law enforcement agencies were able to arrest. So, but you know, as a matter of dapat talaga kasi we only transact with yung mga legitimate na online stores. Those are no, with brick and mortar address pa rin, ganun. So we know who to run after if and when there are defects or something's wrong with the products that we buy. So you know, you may limitations as what we can do also. All right. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. So it's still incumbent upon the consumer like us. Dapat maging mapanuri ho tayo. Tama po kayo, Attorney, na dapat tignan pa rin natin lagi yung store na tinatransact natin that's supposed to be legitimate. At of course, we also always ask for the receipt. Thank you for that, attorney. Next question, please. So, ito po yung pang-anim na question, ano, galing po ito sa consumer. At ang tanong po niya is how to handle consumer complaints arising from online social media transactions when seller is Manila-based and the consumers are based in the province. Okay, I would like to address anyone from the panel. Siguro, Ms. Wherein, please.
Okay, Jerry. Okay, skip. How to handle consumer complaints. So, ganun pa rin, filing the initial complaints sa mediation division. So, meron tayong venue for filing complaints. Like na mention kanina ni Attorney Joseph, it could be dun sa residence ng complainant or place where the transaction took place or the contract was entered into, location ng seller or ng respondent. But of course, laging ang Y option ay complainant. So, even if ang seller ay nasa Manila at ang consumer nasa province, pwede niyang i-file ang complaint niya kung saan siya nakatira, kung saan ang residence niya sa provincial office na kung saan siya nandoon. Then, ang mediation officer naman mag-i-issue ng notice eh. So, even in Manila, lalo na ngayon, mas may advantage ngayong panahon na to dahil tayo puro online. So, hindi na kailangan din naman pumunta, hindi na magiging excuse din ng seller na siya ay nasa Manila na online mediation, pwede na. So, the consumer can file the complaint dun sa residence na place of his residence. At his option naman yun. So, kung online social media, make sure lang na meron siyang address ng online seller. Kasi like sabi ni Attorney Joseph, it's a challenge for us. Kung wala naman tayong address na mapapadala ng notice, makakaroon din tayo ng difficulty how to reach to the party complaint of kung paano mapapadala yung notice. So yun lang, make sure lang na may address lang. But he can always file a complaint at the place kung saan siya may residence or at his or her option. Pwede dito rin sa Manila, pwede din sa FTEM.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wherein. So, importante pa rin ho yung traceability pa rin ho importante para at least yan din ho natin ng parang pagtulong na rin ho natin sa ating mga regulators to find yung store na ito para at least mapabilis yung kanilang pag-send ng mga notices. Okay, thank you, Ms. Wherein. Our next question. Okay, can consumers request the DTI to immediately adjudicate the formal complaint without going through the mediation process? Attorney Pamitan, please.
Well, as stated kanina in the presentation of Ms. Worley, no, it's a mandatory proceeding, so it can be a ground later on for dismissal of the case, if and when it did not go through mediation. It just it can be a ground for the dismissal of the formal complaint, if and when it's brought to adjudication right away.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. Yes, walang shortcut ika nga for going to the adjudication. Kailangan pa rin mandatory mediation process. Okay, next slide, please. So, how are complaints being handled or treated when there is a third-party entity like the services online selling platform? So, anyone on behalf of
Okay, Jerry. Okay, so how are complaints being handled or treated when there is a third-party entity? So, ang ganyan naman lagi, complaint shall always be evaluated para ma-determine natin ano ba talaga yung cause of action. So, even if merong third-party entity like yung delivery service, kasi yun usually nangyayari nowadays, hindi na di-deliver on time. So, sino ba ang pa-file ng complaint? Is it the delivery service company or the online seller? So, tini-evaluate yan based on the cause of action. Example, kung mga defective product ang dumating, of course, sino ba ang party to the transaction? Di lagi yung seller and the consumer. So we always go back kung sino ba ang party to the transaction. And with that, yun ang ini-issuehan ng mediation officer ng notice. So kahit may third-party entity, evaluation pa rin yan. Tatalaman natin kung ano ba talaga ang particular cause of action na gustong hingi ng isang complainant. And if the issue involves yung may defect, may problem sa product o doon sa services na na-avail niya, so kung sino ang katransact niya. Because sila dalawa sila as consumer and seller, sila yung privy ng transaction. Okay, Jerry.
Okay. Ms. Wherein,
Yeah, Jerry.
may I now go on to the next question? Does the DTI have a policy regarding change of mind? Please elaborate. Give examples of valid change of mind scenarios wherein a store is required to give refund replacement to consumers. May I address this question to Attorney Pamitan? Attorney? Or while we are waiting for the response of Attorney Pamitan, Ms. Wherein, baka pwede niyong sagutin to. Wherein. Wherein.
Sorry, Jerry.
Okay.
Wala tayong Sorry. Sige, Ms. Wherein, go ahead.
Ang policy po ng DTI is, hello Jerry, okay? I'll get it na lang, okay?
Go ahead.
Ang policy ng DTI is hello? Jerry?
Okay, go ahead. Ms. Wherein.
Okay, that's Attorney Pamitan.
Okay, ikaw muna, Ms. Wherein.
No, Attorney Joseph. Go ahead, please. It's all right.
You just have to add that later. Wala tayong policy on change of mind. What we have is yung no return, no
Wala po
exchange.
tayo, okay.
Wala tayong policy on change of
take
mind.
it na lang. Okay. So walang policy ang DTI regarding change of mind kasi ang policy po ng DTI is ang available remedies ng consumer act.
Okay. Do you have any... Okay na? Mr.
Attorney Joseph, go ahead please.
Attorney Joseph, do you have any additional answer to this question? So, siguro there being none, let's move to the last question. How does the DTI handle non-jurisdiction complaints, especially if the client, consumer insists to file the formal complaint with the DTI? Attorney Pamitan, can you please answer this question?
Well, it's simple, no? Kung DTI really has no jurisdiction over yung complaint, then we normally have to dismiss yung... And a lot of times we have dismissed a lot of complaints, no? So, hindi naman ibig sabihin, it doesn't mean that when a consumer files a complaint and we always take it and all that stuff. So, it has to be that particular complainant has the burden of proving that indeed the act falls within the ambit of the law that we are implementing. Otherwise, we have to dismiss. No? So, how does DTI handle? Normally, if the complaint is not with DTI or not within the ambit of our jurisdiction or not within the laws that we enforce, then we normally dismiss yung complaint without prejudice, of course, to refiling to the regular courts or to the appropriate government agency. So that's what we do. We dismiss the case.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. There you have the initial test 10 questions na nakuha ho natin before this program. Time check, 12:27. So Sorry po for this, wala na ko tayong oras eh. So siguro I will just get from the chat box natin ng siguro dalawang tanong. Dalawang tanong lang po. So ito po from Joseph Ranola. The respondent apparently, ang tanong po niya is, the respondent apparently an online seller who is in the regular course of doing business without DTI or business permit, just a Zoom account. The complainant is from Manila, but respondent is from Region 5, but complainant filed it at FTED. Still, it was endorsed to DTI Catanduanes. If DTI will call for mediation, it will be to the detriment of the complainant as much as she is from Manila. I think parang nasagot niyo na ata ito, ano? Attorney Joseph. Pero can you add a reply to this if you have any?
I wasn't really able to. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get yung question really well. But for purposes kasi ng rules natin, the rules provide na yung complainant is given a considerable leeway where to file the complaint, and at the onset I enumerated several instances where a particular complaint can be filed, because the rules were crafted in such a way that the filing of a consumer complaint should be at the convenience of the complainant. So if I wasn't able to get the question quite well, but the rule says that option ni complainant where to file. So ngayon, if and when, but ito kasi the issue here atas, it was submitted to based on the rules also, you can change venue, but if the parties there was no such request to change venue and it was transferred to another venue for that matter without permission of the parties or without, and probably kung FTEB just submitted that to us, then you probably just have to tell us what that particular case and we'll just need to sort it out. But normally FTEB does not transfer cases to the regions without the consent of the complainant. So normally we submit those complaints to the regions provided that there is specific instruction from the complainant to transfer it there, because probably it's more convenient to the complainant or something. So, but without such consent from the complainant, we normally do not transfer yung cases from FTEB to other regions. That's what we do. But yeah, but we can look at it more thoroughly perhaps.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Joseph. Siguro 12:31 na po. Siguro I can entertain one question na lang po before we go on. So po, may the DTI legal officer participate in the pero nasagot na rin ho ito. How can we handle online mediation for parties that have no internet connection? What if one party prefers face-to-face? May we be clear if the e-mediation is mandatory too? Since we are under NGCQ, can we proceed with the face-to-face? What if one of the parties has no internet connection? What will prevail, assuming they agreed to enter into mediation process? Ms. Werlin, can you please reply to this question? Werlin? Ms. Werlin? Okay.
Hello?
Hello, Ms. Werlin.
Hello. So the question is, the question is walang internet connection yung other party, yeah, right?
Yeah,
so in that particular case, can we... At this point in time, hindi kasi tayo nag-encourage ng face-to-face mediation, considering the health protocol. So, of course, everybody understands naman na ang importante yung health natin. So, at saka, ang ginagawa ng DTI, kung walang internet connection, pwede kami mag-telemediate. May mediation officer kami na nag-exert talaga ng effort na tawagan both parties. Telemediation is also available. Pwede rin natin gawin yun. Basta kaya ang suggestion namin is parating ang complainant to provide, if not the email address, the contact number of the party complained of, so that parehas namin silang makukontak.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Werlin. Ako, pagpasensya niyo na ho kami. At 12:33 na po ang ating pong time. Marami po akong mga katanungan dito po sa chat box. So, sorry for not giving you the opportunity to answer all of these questions. Be that as it may, we will gather everything, all your questions, then we will respond to your question po. So, maraming salamat. So, to close this program, I would like to first call and welcome our Assistant Secretary, Attorney Anne-Claire Cabuchan. Ma'am?
Okay, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I know that everybody is raring to eat their lunch, but I have heard part of the session, and I read through the chat box, and especially appreciate that our DTI regional offices, provincial offices are here, and I've seen very positive remarks. Just to say that because I was in my former life as director of the Bureau of International Trade Relations, I was always in negotiations. I think it is something that's similar when you go through mediation. And you always have to go to the negotiating table willing to give something. Because if you go there with a very unflinching stance, that is the recipe for disaster. So I guess I see that there are businesses here. I also see that there are consumers here. If you go to the negotiating table and with an open mind, because I am also a lawyer, I'm also somebody who does not like to go through all this litigation. I'm sure that businesses do not also want to go through that. So if businesses would like to avoid something like that, then they will have to improve on customer service, make sure that you sell products that are of a certain quality and do not misrepresent the quality of your products. And you have to be also very responsive to customer concerns. As far as the customers are concerned also, I think that it is also a responsibility, while we have the right of redress, wag naman tayo yung masyado tayong, alam mo yung sobrang sense of entitlement. I've seen it in a few cases already na hindi talaga na nasa-satisfy. That is a recipe for really the case not being resolved. It will have to go through adjudication and probably go through a court case. I just want to go back to 2 points.
2 points.
On the change of mind. We do not have change of mind, right? You can only invoke the return or ask for refund if of course the product is defective. And of course, it can no longer be replaced by a similar product. So hindi pwedeng applicable yung change of mind. As to those complaints not within the jurisdiction of the DTI, when we receive those complaints, we have a no wrong door policy. We probably would receive it via email and endorse it to the proper government office. So we cannot act on something over which we do not have jurisdiction. So with that, I hope that everybody has found that the 3 hours that they have spent in this session, or 2 hours, was time well spent. I hope that you will participate in future webinars of the CPAB. Thank you, CPAB, for hosting this. And of course, to Jerry who moderated this. So with that, good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. At maraming salamat.
Thank you po, Asek. Good afternoon din po. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. Gaya po ng sinabi po ni Attorney Kabuchan, our ASEC, na there will be another scheduled session and we will flash this in your screens. Tapos, please do not forget to accomplish the feedback survey. The link is posted in the chat section and it will be sent to your registered email address. Thank you and see you next session. Maraming pong salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you so
ma'am.
much. God bless everyone.
Salamat po.
Maraming pong salamat sa ating pong mga taga-DTI family and of course
Thank you,
our
Jerry.
other stakeholders. Maraming salamat for joining us in our webinar session.
Thank you so much po. Masayang tanghali. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. Maraming salamat.
Thank you po.
Sir Jerry, sana may kasunod pa.
Meron po. Marami po yan at bibigyan po namin kayo ng mga invitations in the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat.
Inulit ko po, pakitingin lang po sa screen namin yung ipaki-fill out lang po yung feedback survey namin. Nandun po nakapost po dun sa chat section and it will be sent to your registered email address. Maraming salamat.
Kain.